Fujifilm X100 Mark VI is most arguably the best-selling camera ever. And if you're actually tired of waiting, or you're looking at that camera and thinking, I want something small and pocketable as well for my street travel and everyday photography and a bit of filming, then you're at the right place, because in this episode I'm gonna share with you my 6 alternatives for the Fujifilm X100 Mark VI. So number 1 is the obvious choice here. It's a different Fujifilm camera, and there are a plethora of Fujifilm's camera as an alternative. But if you follow the channel, you know that my favorite is the Fujifilm X70 Mark II, which you can see here, which comes with a 24 megapixel X-Trans 4 sensor. It is not weather sealed. Doesn't have IBIS, it has almost all the film simulations except Reala Ace, a nice flippy up screen, the intuitive buttons and controls you have, and in general it's an interchangeable lens camera, so that means you can pretty much pair it with whatever you want to. Obviously you can also choose the 23mm or the 27mm. There are so many different cameras here, it becomes a question of budget. The XT10, 20, the 30, they're excellent alternatives. The XE series, the 1 until 3 or 4, they're all good. The XT30 Mark II is actually new, still on sale here in Europe for about $1,000. But if you look further on the used market, you can pick one up somewhere between $750 and $850, which is a very good price. It saves you about $800 to get a new lens. Now, number 2 on the list is the most obvious non-Fuji camera there is, and it is the Ricoh GR3X in this case, so it's a 40mm equivalent lens. This is a fantastic camera in terms of image quality. It comes with 2 GB of internal storage, image stabilization, zone focusing, its own film sims, and 2 slots to have your own film recipes. It doesn't have a viewfinder, so you're solely reliant on the actual LCD screen here, which I find okay, and that's also one of the weaknesses of this camera. There's 3, I would say, weaknesses. The first one is that the LCD screen in bright daylight is not bright enough, and you really need the exposure compensation metering. I do find the autofocus at times choppy, specifically in high contrast situations, and the battery life is not very good. When it comes to video, I would not rate this at all. I think an average smartphone or the DJI Pocket 3 is probably the best alternative when you're really into video. Additionally, this sensor has a tendency to collect dust, so it is quite important that you put something on it, otherwise you will have to send it back to Ricoh. That dust only shows when you go on f9 to 11. There's a full episode of the experiences here that I had with this camera after 1 year's use, so you can check that out. It's in the link in the descriptions below. Now, another camera, and this is a bit of an oddball, you'll probably think. This is a Sony RX100 Mark III. I bought this not so long ago. You can see an episode here on my first impressions. And this camera has actually impressed. Yes, it's a 1-inch sensor, and some of you will immediately rant that it is not good in low light. I tend to disagree, but what this camera has is a 24 to 70mm lens, which you can easily zoom in and zoom out, a nice flippy up screen so you can also take your selfies, which is pretty cool. The menu system is not touchable. You can touch it, but nothing happens. You still have to use the dials here. It comes with a built-in ND filter. It also has a little viewfinder which you pull up, which is a fantastic little feature. Comes with a flash. Oh, this makes it fantastic. There we go. It has its own kind of film sims. They're not at the level that Fuji is, but you can still customize the contrast and everything, so you can pretty much create your own look, which I really like about this camera. Now, are there a few downsides? Yes, in low light you don't sacrifice your shutter, you just use the high ISOs, and afterwards you can denoise in post, which is good. I think the battery life is not as good. The video capabilities on this particular make, so this is the Mark III, are a bit dated. It's 1080p. The later models do have an extended zoom range, so 20 to 200, but they don't have a built-in ND. It does have in-body stabilization, and you can pick them up on the used market for this Mark III. Depends on where you are. A lot of you in a previous episode here basically said, hold on, with us in Indonesia or in Australia, this is very expensive. Also people in the UK have commented. But I think if you look well for a Mark III, you can get them for 400, while a used Mark 7, so the latest and the greatest as such, will probably cost you 900 bucks. Got a fixed lens, fixed range, easy to pocket. This is truly a little champion. You can smuggle it into anywhere you want to. And I think that's the biggest selling point. So if you're going on hikes or whatever you're doing, you don't have to really bring gear with it. You get this little baby. Small downside is that the autofocus, some people have complained about it, but that's probably because your ND is still on. I find the autofocus still, as any Sony camera, even when they're older, fantastic. Next one here is the Sony A6000 series, where my personal favorite is the A6400, which goes for roughly between 600 and 800 bucks nowadays on the used market, which has the, it's basically a hybrid camera. You can do fantastic stills with them and you can do fantastic video with it. It comes with all the Sony bells and whistles in terms of log profiles that you have, and additionally the Sony autofocus. Now the lens range is so incredibly wide, you can always find a decent lens for your camera. Personally, smaller lenses on it. Yeah, I like the Samyang 19mm for photography. Vignettes a bit, but I think it's okay. Another great camera in my little arsenal is a micro four thirds camera. And before you start, please, micro four thirds, no, it's not bad. Please, it's not. It's just maybe a smaller sensor, but it does have certain advantages. And my choice of poison would be here the GX80 or 85, depending on where you live in the world, an image stabilized camera, which comes with two great pancake lenses, the 14mm and the 20mm, and that makes it ideal for your everyday carry. Additionally, it's got a nice little siding flip-up screen. It's got the fantastic Panasonic Lumix color science. I really feel that Panasonic doesn't get the credit for it. It's easy in your hand, lays easy, not that heavy, has 4K video onto it, although it's capped. Doesn't have any microphone jacks, which is a bit of an issue if you really want to use it for vlogging or content creation. But I really feel that this is one of the bargains still out there. You can get used bodies for, I had mine for 265 euros. You can see an episode here, and you can see an episode here why I use it that much. Normally it's about 350 to 450, and the lens is the 14 and the 20mm are really cheap. Combined you can get them for I think 350 bucks. So you can have a complete combo if you're lucky for about 700 bucks, which I think is a fantastic deal. It has the in-body stabilization, as I said. It's not weather sealed. It might be a bit dated in video, but for photography this is an absolute fantastic budget option. Now we entered number 6, and last but not least here we have the Fuji X70. Yes, this is the X70. It is an aps-c camera released some time ago with an 18mm or basically 27mm, 28mm focal length. And this is a camera where I'm still surprised Fuji has not really done anything with it. Now the XM5 I believe is coming, but this is a small pocketable little camera. Has the X-Trans 3 sensor into it, so it's the same as in the X-T2, which is an absolutely lovely sensor, fantastic color rendering. This is also one of the most easiest cameras to operate, easy in your pocket, everyday carry, fantastic. There are one or two things that I don't like about it. I wish this would have had a viewfinder. It does have its own built-in flash here. And the battery life, this is one of these cameras which don't really have the Fuji batteries we all know. This is a very, very small battery and you notice it, so you need a few of them when you go out shooting. This is a similar camera like the Sony RX100 or the Ricoh. It truly fits into your pocket and you really can go anywhere with these cameras because nobody notices them, and they're a lot cheaper than the X100VI. Let me know in the comments below what you think.